Welcome to the Reality Revolution. Today, we're going to read another enticing Quo channeling. This one was recently delivered on April 27th, 2024. Now, the title mentions magical workings, which is mentioned in the final question, but it's always hard to choose the title of one of these Quo episodes because they talk about so many different things. The topics covered in this particular channeling are the significance of repeating digits, optimizing one's own inner channel, navigating activated chakras, connecting with guidance, activating and using the Pineal gland, kundalini experiences, about our moon and moons in general, this personal significance of the draw to certain places and times, musings on Yahweh, the advent of self-doubt, the relative balances of power and magical action between the densities. Quo is a conglomeration of higher density social memory complexes that are made up of higher density beings from 4th, 5th, and 6th density that includes Ra, Latui, and Hatan that have been channeling through LL research for over 50 years now, answering questions primarily of a spiritual nature with certain limitations. These channelings are always very powerful to listen to and have an energetic nature to them in my reading and listening to them that go beyond just the words. As they always recommend, just work with what resonates, and if this material does not resonate with you, then just forget about it. We begin with Jim channeling. I am Quo, and am with this instrument at this time. We greet each in love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. It is a great honor to be called to your group at this time, for as you have gathered together and shared your open hearts, you have created a means by which we may look within each heart and respond to each question. The love of the Creator that flows through your hearts to us and our hearts back to you. It is a connection that is most important in this type of contact with your peoples at this time. We're always honored to be here with you. It is something that we, as you would say, look forward to. And we ask that you take those thoughts and words that we give to you as responses to your queries with what you would call the grain of salt. If you will think about what we have to say, take that which has meaning to you and leave behind that which has no meaning. Then you allow us to speak in a more open and clear fashion. Since we do not have to worry about providing any stumbling block to you through any word or concept, at this time we would ask if there is a query to which we may respond. Yes, I have a question. This might seem a little silly, but it just keeps happening. There's got to be some reason. Anyway, I keep looking at my clock. Any clock in the house sounds just kind of silly, but anyway, I look at it and I keep seeing the clock's not broken, okay? But I keep seeing 3 numbers. The same numbers, and it makes no difference when or where. It could be 111 or, 444, whatever. But anyway, I'm just wondering, is there some kind of significance? Because it's been going on now for a couple of weeks, at least. And I don't know, I keep getting things from the other side, the dark side, and it just makes me wonder if this is something that has been the dark side that other people are trying to put in my head to keep me, because I'm easily influenced. So I'm just wondering if that's my question. Is there a significance to this? And is it coming from the dark side, if you will? I guess that's good enough. I am Quo, and I'm aware of your query, my brother. We find that this query is one which moves much deeper than darkness. This is a query which moves through darkness into the potential for light. This is the means by which you are being contacted by those of your inner guidance, which have for you a kind of puzzle that is manifested in the numbers that you see from time to time. This is a kind of communication that allows you to go within your own self in this meditative state and seek the answers to what those numbers mean and how they refer to what could be seen as difficult or dark experiences that have been occurring from time to time within your life pattern. Everyone as a spiritual seeker of truth will have kinds of experiences that are challenging, that ask of the self to expand the nature of one's view of the self in a manner which can cause difficulty and pain. When this occurs, it is often necessary to find a means of processing the pain, understanding the reason for it, expanding your own concept of yourself, and moving through the pain into a lighter area of unity. That is a process that continues throughout the life pattern. Thus, though this is an experience that has been happening to you of late, seeing the patterns of numbers, this is a tool which is being given to you that you may utilize in your meditative state to find an answer to the puzzle. Is there a further query, my brother? No, that's fine, thank you. I am Quo, and we thank you, my brother. Is there another query at this time? I have a question. For those of us like me who are just starting out on a channeling journey, in my case, automatic writing, I would like your advice on how to best optimize the channel to be as pure and high frequency and clear as possible. I am Quo, and we feel that we understand your query, my sister. This process that you've been recently discovering within yourself is like the seed in a garden that needs to be watered with care and attention. If you will take time before the process of automatic writing occurs to meditate and set your intentions to be able to contact the highest and best source of information within yourself that is coming to you through the automatic writing, then you will be watering that seed so that it grows in a manner which is the most inspiring and efficacious means by which you may proceed on your spiritual path. This is the way in which each type of gift that one may have may be enhanced and may be able to be projected outward in a manner which aids with other seekers of truth. For as you meet those seekers on your spiritual journey and find that they have similar interest to yours as to the nature of reality, the purpose of the incarnation, how to seek the one creator, etc., you may then share the gifts of your gift so that they may be able to enhance their own journey. Is there a further query, my sister? No, thank you. I am Quo, and we thank you, my sister. Is there another query at this time? Yeah, I have a question, Quo. This is in regard to using the energy system in the human chakra system. If a chakra I'm using just turns on, unblocks, or clears, or crystallizes somewhat, and say it's fifth chakra, is it possible to lose that crystallization, or is it pretty much the permanent state unless you destroy it? Does it make sense? Perhaps it's not very articulate. I feel a door open in me on a higher chakra, and I don't really know what to do with it, and I'm wondering if this is my permanent state. I'm Quo, and I'm aware of your query, my sister. We find that the process of the opening of the chakra that you have described is a step upon your spiritual path that seems new to you, but which has been in potential for a great portion of what you call time. The time now is right. It is ripe. It is time to look at this chakra opening and meditate upon how it is affecting your spiritual journey, for it is that which is an enhancement of what has come before. And when you meditate upon its quality, its purpose, and how you may utilize it most effectively, then you will ensure that its opening does not regress, shall we say, does not move backwards, so that you have to retrace these steps that you have taken both consciously and unconsciously in reaching this point in your spiritual path. So the meditation that we recommend is that which puts you in touch not only with the purpose of the chakra, but with that guidance system which you may call your higher self, or your guides, which may give you more of a larger picture of the chakra and its purpose. This is the means by which you can keep this chakra open, active, and moving you forward in your spiritual path. Is there another query, my sister? No, thank you, Quo. That was beautiful. Very, very helpful. I'm Quo, and we thank you, my sister. Is there another query at this time? I have a question. How do I connect more fully with my guides and my projection of my greater entity? I'm Quo, and I'm aware of your query, my sister. Again, we suggest the process of entering into the meditative state with the intention of asking the very question that you've asked us, for your guides are there to respond to queries to your interest, to your desire to seek further upon your spiritual path. So if you will take that time to meditate and to look within yourself for the source of information, then that will be provided to you by your guides, and as a means of moving you forward into more communication with your higher self. At this time, you are unaware that the quality which is the higher self is you, for the higher self is a greater portion of who you are. You are all things, the higher self and the one creator as well. However, the higher self is more like the teacher in the schoolroom, where you in the incarnate state are a student, And as you ask the higher self for more questions about your journey, then sometimes they are answered through your higher self or your guides that might communicate via your intuition, your hunches, those thoughts that come to you, shall we say, out of the blue. And yet, it's not out of the blue, but it is out of you. For you are one with these sources of information. You are expanding your own experience of yourself when you make contact with these guides, your higher self, and others within the inner planes that are aware of you and are attracted to you by the way you seek on your spiritual path. Is there a further query, my sister? No, thank you. I am Quo, and we thank you, my sister. At this time, we will transfer this contact to the one known as Trisha. We are those of Quo. Trisha channeling. We are those of Quo. We are now with this instrument. We would like to take a quick moment to state our gratitude for the joining of this circle for each entity's participation in this group query, this group seeking, and for the support and love that this circle generates together and apart. We feel that this type of communion is one that is potent and powerful in the support and progression of the particular flavor in seeking. And so through this instrument, we again express our gratitude, and we would ask if there is a query to which we may speak at this time. Yes, I have a question, Quo. I'd like to know what is the best way to access and activate the pineal gland and how to utilize it to the greatest good, and are there ways we need to protect it once it is activated? We are those of Quo, and we are aware and thankful for this query, my sister. And in this particular chakra, this configuration within your energetic system is one of great importance and is a pivotal point for the one seeking spiritual evolution and growth. And so we understand this desire to move the energy of the self, of the spirit, up and through this chakra, so that eventually the crown chakra may be open and the energy may flow in full freedom in both directions. This particular chakra is opened and balanced through the maintenance and tender care of the chakras below and including it. That kind of care and balance can be undertaken with intentional practice. As previously stated, the meditation upon the preceding chakras, the noticing of what comes up in that meditative state, when the focus is upon that particular chakra, what that chakra represents to the self within your illusion, what power or meaning it may hold in the way you progress in your incarnation, and with love and acceptance of where the self is in regards to each particular chakra, the full opening may occur. It is with the gentle touch and the abundance of grace that the doors are more easily opened and kept ajar. So we would suggest that to progress forward and access this particular chakra, that one puts the energy towards maintaining an open channel through the chakra system. And it is in that practice that one may find the potential lessons presented to one that help open this particular chakra, be it the challenges of the body, the challenges of the self and identity, the challenges of the self within group identity, the challenges of the heart, the challenges of wisdom, and so forth. And through those lessons, it is that the soul may find clear pathway in the love and acceptance of the creation, that this particular chakra may be accessed in terms of its usefulness and in keeping that particular channel open so that one may progress further. It is again that intentional space of focusing one's energy on what this chakra means to oneself. What are the values, the tenets, the data, or the aspects of this particular chakra to you? What do they mean to you in your journey? Focusing upon those aspects and seeing how they reflect within your incarnation. Seeing where what you may call work can be done, and work always done with the light touch, with the forgiving hand. It is then that one may, for lack of a better phrasing, grease the hinges on these doors to keep them open. They are more easily accessed with this inpouring of intentional energy and mindful practice. We would also add that once the self is able to bring this set of knowledge outside of the meditative practice and into what you may see as your more grounded, illusory experience, that the flow of energy upward becomes almost second nature. You might say, becomes automatic, for you have maintained an equilibrium within the self that allows for the free flow of energy upwards, much like the clearing of a blocked system, a blocked pipe. The water moving through the pipe now has easy access, so that what it carries may move forward and back, but it is through intentional upkeep and maintenance that one can keep that channel clear. We apologize if we have perhaps stepped off topic at a point in this particular answer, and we would ask if there's a follow-up or some way that we may speak through this instrument to potentially clear up any confusion in this response. We are those of Quo. Question: how will one know that that's where it comes from? We are those of Quo, and we may ask for a bit of clarifying question to you. My sister, are you referring to the energy or the source of the chakra opening? Are you perchance questioning the origin of either of those? We apologize, my sister. We are those of Quo. I apologize for not being clear. The source is what I'm referring to. We are those of Quo, and we are aware of the query, my sister, and appreciate the clarification, and through this instrument issue an apology on her end as well. The source is a difficult thing to identify in this illusion, at least in terms that would make what you may call sense, in that everything is a source, for everything is one. But the source of the energy and the source of the chakra, the source of the movement, it all comes and stems through this underlying beingness of the creation that is ultimately love. And so we apologize that we are having difficulty using language to describe what source may be beyond that which can be identified as love of the Creator. Now, in terms of how it may be sensed or felt in one, we would say that the personal discernment may be a helpful tool, that the energetic feeling that one experiences when attempting to access a certain chakra or meditate upon a certain aspect, that vibe is what may inform you of its source, that inner feeling. And so much like we have spoken through the previous instrument, it may be helpful to look to your inner personal guides and trust your gut. See what feelings come up for you when you're questioning this source, for that which is of the Creator is of love. So if they always have that flavor, and it may be in some way made useful, in some way be informative, perhaps that we are meaning to convey through this instrument is that faith and trust in oneself and in the creation are helpful lenses to discern what one is experiencing and where energy flows through oneself. Additionally, they are helpful tools for discerning where one may need greater amounts of acceptance and understanding and forgiveness. Again, we apologize, my sister, and we would ask if there is potentially another round to which we may speak to this query. Now, that is answered quite well. Thank you so much, Quo. We thank you, my sister, both of these questions and for your patience. We may ask if there is another query to which we may speak. I have a question. I was going to ask something, but I'm going to ask something else. I have a meditation practice, and in my meditation practice, I have triggered in myself what I feel might be kundalini energy or whatever, and it's like I reached a point where, like you were saying with the last question, where it becomes like automatic, and it seems almost electrical a little bit. And I was done meditating, and I was trying to go to sleep, and it wouldn't go away. And I described it to my wife as if it felt like electrical heroin. It was like pure. I just couldn't do it. I was overwhelmed because I was like, what is this pure goodness, pure energy? And then I was like, I just got worried. So I was like, I can't go to sleep. I was overwhelmed. I don't even know what I'm doing. So I just wanted some advice, what I should do next. Should I meditate differently? We are those of Quo, and we are aware and thankful for this query, my brother. We would start by saying that calling this experience as you have is a potent and humorous way of describing it. And we appreciate that humor. But we understand that that particular experience, though blissful in its state, may seem to be out of one's control or may seem to be confusing, difficult to put boundaries on, and that may cause some discomfort. However, we would impart upon you the idea that this particular kind of experience is, in a sense, the access point to the universe as a whole, the universe that exists without definition and identity, the oneness that lacks borders, boundaries, or ego. And so we can understand the discomfort, for this illusion is one that is very heavily drenched in boundaries and separation. But the experience that you embarked upon was one that one may say is quite pivotal to your spiritual journey, this touching into the oneness of the creation. It is a common experience for those who open such access points that there is both a fear that it is unending or that it is out of one's control, that it is outside of the normal day-to-day experience of the self as it knows the illusion, and that is by design, my friend. That is to act as an invitation to a deeper awakening. This is and could be a point of activation for self. This experience is potent catalyst for self, and so we would simply say that for one to know what to do, henceforth one must take time to find what this experience means to oneself and to integrate and process it, to find ways to accept it so that it removes that sense of fear or apprehension, for it seems that you have accessed something of great power within you, and using one's personal discernment to figure out what this means for you is part of this step along your spiritual journey. The steps that follow are ultimately yours to take. We would only state that your heart, your soul will guide you, and faith will be that lantern that lights your way, trusting in the creation and the goodness that underflows every aspect of the Creator's manifestations will be much like a primed petri dish for this experience to unfold further. Now, we do not say that the voice of a forecaster for you hold, we correct this instrument, for you have your hands upon the steering wheel. We simply mean that this experience is one that is quite pregnant with opportunity, and that ultimately the inputs are in your hands to see what grows from it. Again, the trust and faith, love and acceptance for this experience may be the opening up the door for deeper understanding. May we ask if there is a follow-up to this query, my brother? No follow-up, I just want to say thank you. It sounds like you know me. I don't even think people realize how much that was exactly what I needed, so thank you. We are those a quo, and we thank you, my brother. And we would simply state that we, of course, do know you, for you, as we, as are all in this circle, all simply extensions of the one infinite Creator. So we know that we are all sourced in that love, just merely wearing different costumes with different names. May we ask if there is another query to which we may speak? Yes, Quo, I'm Kay, and I would like to ask a question about our moon. In essence, some planets have them, some planets don't. We're aware of some of the physical results of having a moon, like tides, moon phases, reflections of light. But my question is, are there characteristics metaphysically, spiritually, energetically associated with the moon, or inherent with having a moon just in general on any given planet? And then, more specifically, are there any ways we can tap into that or use that as a source of guidance, healing, amplification for us on Earth with our wonderful sister moon? We are those of Quo, and we are aware and thankful for this query, my brother. We find that this type of investigation about the relationships between the celestial bodies is one that is apparently of great importance given the events of what you call recent times. Indeed, there is a divine structure and relationship between the celestial bodies, and the relationship between the moon and its brethren is one that serves a specific purpose. For you see that in your scientific view of moons and other smaller celestial bodies, they are seen to be revolving around and attracted to a planet, a larger celestial body, and that this dynamic is bound by gravitational pull or force. However, on a spiritual level, there is no force. There is attraction, and that dynamic is one of symbiosis, that there is a giving and receiving between planet and moon, that there is energetic transfer between the two systems. For you see, on this planet, as you have mentioned, your sister moon provides an influence, which you see in the ways of the tides, which you can also see in the way of the eclipses. And also, those particular phenomenon can be seen as something larger than simply celestial or galactic phenomenon, but rather as manifestations of the Creator's love in a catalytic way, so that it produces the opportunity for change. Take, for example, the tides. The tides of your oceans are inherently vehicles for change. They sift the sand, they move the rocks, they help distribute nutrients, they move plant and animal life, they affect the shape of your lands. That is but an obvious example of the type of change that can be catalyzed by this relationship. When one takes a view outside of the grounded, illusory experiences, one may see that such change can be felt in the way of experiencing what you might see or feel as a shift. Being able to realize the interconnectedness of all creation, that something that seems so far away, so out of one's reach, actually has such great influence upon the daily experience of the self. And it is in that type of relationship on a small level, the one of the third density being witnessing the relationship between planet and moon, that occurs on a larger scale as well. And when that occurs in reverse, there is energy that's transferred between Earth and moon in both directions. The dynamic of the pull and the push can be seen to be a loving type of energetic manifestation, not to be seen as a forceful one, but one that is done with free will, that the celestial bodies play in this dynamic all across the universe within free will, that there is the energetic transfer of the giving that the other celestial body receives, and in so doing, they are in service to one another, providing opportunities to be of support and to be of aid to one another. When one can see that type of loving, energetic interchange on a small scale and on a large scale, one may be able to find ways to practice gratitude and appreciation for this dynamic, and so to speak, to how one may use the energy between these two. We would simply state that the practice of gratitude, the viewing of the moon in loving ways, seeing it for its beauty and its power are helpful tools. Viewing those situations wherein the moon dances slightly differently within one star field in its phases are great opportunities for further noticing and appreciating its existence and for what it gifts to Mother Gaia. And in that full realization of that relationship and the interconnectedness of all further celestial bodies, feel the love. That love moves outward into the universe, lifting the vibrations until eventually this illusory experience and its many tendrils of the spider web seem to be all encompassing everything and nothing all at once. That which is because there is nothing without. If that may make sense, we again apologize for the fear this instrument may have lost the plot again, and would ask if there is a final follow-up to which we may speak to this question, my brother. No, thank you. That was very beautiful. We are those who quo, and we thank you, my brother, and we are thankful again for this group, for the patience and support, and at this time we shall take our leave of this instrument and transfer our contact to the one known as Gary. We are those of quo. We are those known to you as the principle of quo, and once again we speak through an instrument that we may continue the great privilege of this rare experience of blending our vibrations with your own, that we may hear the concerns upon your minds and the queries and desires and yearnings of your heart, that we may offer something back in reflection that ideally may stimulate your own inward journey in the inner discovery of that which you seek. We have no answers to offer per se, only a desire to support the walk that you have laid for yourselves in this incarnation and the many to come. We are quo, and would ask if there is a query to which we may respond. I have a question. I was recently in Bali, and it was during the time of the recent eclipse, and I got a strong feeling that it was no coincidence that I was there, and later got messaging that I was indeed meant to be there as an anchor. And I'm wondering, what is the significance of me and other spiritual seekers needing to be physically present at certain points on the earth for events like that, and for other reasons? We are quo, and have received this query, my sister, and thank you for its offering. Each seeker, as it moves upon its upward spiraling journey, has many opportunities before it, and many pathways that spring from these opportunities, each flowing and configuring according to the needs of that seeker. The parameters of the lessons which the seeker has set for itself on one level or another, the desire upon the part of the seeker to serve in some fashion, others in the case of the positively polarizing beings, and into this milieu, which is a word this instrument never prefers to utter for its pronunciation challenge. The positively polarizing being moves and attracts to itself that which is magnetized according to its overall vibrational state. And for those seeking, such as you are, my sister, they may find a consciously perceived strong desire to be in a place such as you were, or they may find themselves seemingly being led by the flow and synchronicity of the circumstance such that they may find themselves in such a novel circumstance, whether it is the aligning of the earth and your moon and your sun, or it is the encounter with another person, or the participation of an event of a grouping of your vehicles. Each circumstance will present itself to the seeker when and as it is needed, and ready so as to offer the opportunity for the seeker to continue to know itself, to express itself, to move upward and upward in an overall trajectory of transcendence, but one which also requires the continual facing of the self, the opening of the heart to the self in forgiveness, mercy, and compassion, that the many seeming threads and pieces of the self may be integrated into a whole being that reflects more truly the true nature of the being. You, my sister, on a level desired such an opportunity and made effort to participate in an experience. This opportunity that you and others who felt a similar magnetic draw to this moment, each with different reasons, could make use of it for some type of, in general, we may safely say, opening to a larger perspective, activation perhaps of energies within the self, and on a deeper level than may be easily accessible in the daily round of experiences. Though never fully closed to the self, connecting to that which is greater than, as we have called it figuratively, the small self, connecting to the universe, which is both the ground of the being and the destination and home of the being outside and through the small containers of identity and thought, which the third density itself normally inhabits and identifies with. May we ask if there's a follow-up to this query? We are those known to you as Quo. Thank you, Quo. No, that answered it very nicely. Thank you. We are those of Quo, and we thank you, my sister. Is there another query in this circle to which we may offer our thoughts humbly? I have a question. I recently read the Bible, and I'm trying to put this in the most positive way possible, but some of the things I read in the Old Testament, I don't know, I want to say hurt me emotionally. It's the things that I guess you could call him the God of Israel, which we know as we know their name. The name is supposedly like Yahweh or Jehovah, or like both, or they might be different people. I just don't know. I just don't understand. I just want to make sense of some of the things that happened in that book, and I want to know who is Yahweh and who is Jehovah. We are those of Quo, and receive your query with empathy for the pain you experience in reaction to that which your people know as a holy scripture, my brother. Regarding the who is who of this particular character, as you have identified it, as the one known as Yahweh within the Old Testament, your studies, my brother, may benefit from a reading of that recorded transmission that is known to you as the Law of One, for this specific subject was addressed at some length of terms of the history of this higher density social memory complex, who had identified itself as Yahweh in service to those of your planet, and who, through a detuned people, was replaced, shall we say. That is to say, the transmission began being sent not from the original loving source, but from a non-loving source, by a being of a negative nature, thus adding yet new layers of confusion to that which was already endemic in your world. The emotional experience that you undergo while reading these words highlights where there is work for you to do, our brother. It is work well undertaken, as we spoke in our previous response. It is by no accident that you are having this intersection with this material at this moment. It is, you might say, good grist for your mill. How you shall make use of that is not for us to say, but for you to discover, but it may, in reflection, offer opportunity for your healing. For there is indeed, from the third density perspective, difficult material within that particular text, of entities harming other entities with religious sanction, and much confusion about the nature of polarity and of the journey and the universe itself. And it has continued to offer your people a catalyst both of inspiration and separation in various measures. We find, as we have spoken before, that your holy works on the whole tend to offer this sort of mixed orientation. But for the seeker who comes into a knowing of him or herself, in the deeper sense of that knowing, who finds that peace within and knows who they are in both a polarized and a non-polarized sense, but especially for its relevancy to the third density entity, the polarized sense as one who is committed to the path of serving others. Even text which seems so inherently troubling can be interpreted such that it offers important points of philosophical consideration for the self. Is there a follow-up to this query, my brother? I just want to say thank you. Question, can I ask a follow-up in relation to that? Recently, if I recall correctly, there was grilling in Congress where a congressman was asking in terms of, do you believe in the God of Israel, per se? What I'm hearing is today, and I need to study more in this area, that maybe the quote-unquote God of Israel may be a higher social memory complex, but not truly the source per se that we're all a part of. Is that what I'm hearing correctly, or can you clarify that? We are Quo, and we thank you for your query, my brother. We would clarify that indeed there were higher density interactions in, from your perspective, the days of old with those that of the tribe known to you as Israel, and such interactions were recorded in various states of distortion in those books which you reference now, and depending upon one's orientation when approaching that question, such as you ask, such as was being asked, will point to the particular source of that inspiration and or information to those of that time and that place. There is no one answer to that question, for it is possible to look to such text as we referred previously and draw from it negative lessons, and to look to that text and to whatever extent it records it faithfully, its external seeming source, and find positive inspiration and even greater opportunity for mixed types of inspiration. May we ask if there's a follow-up to this query? We are those a quo. So generally, maybe we can assume that the negative energy features in the Old Testament, for example, are distortions that occurred at one level or the other. We are those a quo, and in the sense that we believe that you intend the phrase are distortions of one level or another, we would confirm this supposition that the original project began as a purely positive-oriented source, and through the free will of your peoples of that region, distortions were indeed rendered to the original mission and original nature of the material. However, that was not the end of the story, and as we had suggested previously, one may benefit from a study of our previous transmission, that is, from one of our group known to you as the Law of One, which may offer greater clarity in terms of the ability of what you might see as original Yahweh to not lose contact completely. Thank you so much. We thank you, my brother. Before we transfer this contact to the one known as Jim, we would ask if there is another query from this circle. We are those of quo. Trisha, I have a question, quote. It seems, at the very least, in the sharing of the round robin, that many of us deal with the catalyst of self-doubt, be that manifesting and not knowing what to do, not knowing if we're on the right path, not knowing if what we're doing is acceptable, or simply not believing in ourselves. And I was wondering if this particular kind of catalyst is unique to our 3D experience, or even unique in terms of geographical on a cosmic level, or is this a catalyst that spans multiple densities? Is it a catalyst that we will potentially revisit as we progress? We are those of quo and are grateful for your query, my sister, as it is rare to receive question spoken outwardly from you. This is a topic which may challenge the instrument, as he has no familiarity with this experience of self-doubt. We make such lighthearted comment at this time for those outside of the circle, because prior to this channeling, this instrument had shared much on precisely this topic. To your query, our sister, indeed, this type of self-doubt, which you describe, is not unique to your sector of the galaxy, or to your galaxy among the infinite others in this creation. It is unique to the veiled experience, and to some degree the higher second density entity, who may imbue some of the qualities of the third density entity when in close contact and relationship. For much of what you experience in the third density, it is necessary first to create the almost seemingly impenetrable and solid illusion of separation of an individual self, which has been separated from its own resources, seemingly, from its deeper nature where it is one with all, from a connection that without the veil would be effortless and normal, as you would say, would be an intrinsic property of reality without seeming possibility of other mode of experience. This veil that partitions, as it were, your conscious from your subconscious mind creates an environment within which the self comes into being as an individual. And in this dimly illuminated environment, the self may reach various conclusions about who and what it is, being uninformed of its actual true nature and the nature of the universe itself. Its conclusions will likely misapprehend the Creator, that is, until the awakening and seeking process has begun, and the entity finds motivation to pierce the illusions and to quest after what is true and what has been forgotten. But prior to the onset of such awakening, and what you may see as the slumbering state, the entity is convinced wholly and thoroughly that it is a separate individual actor upon the stage, subject to innumerable influences, many of which may cause the self to conclude that it is small or weak or vulnerable, which may result in feedback to the self about its imperfections and shortcomings relative to those standards set within a dream of consensus reality of your third density, relatively uniformed by the eternal nature of all things and the perfection of self and all things. Such negative feedback may compound with these other conclusions of which we just spoke, thereby allowing the self the opportunity to create a solid sense of self, which is inherently unworthy, inherently lacking, inherently limited in some way, or often, as is the case, multiple ways. And the self, then seemingly cut off from the springs of eternity, operates within the framework of this divisioned or inadequate self, such that it embeds within the framework of the self's identity and becomes the self, or nags at the self in the background, in the shadows, reminding the self that it is not enough, that others may reject it, that it may fail, and so forth. This may create a cascading round of distortion, for the fear that failure represents to the individual, which has determined to its own satisfaction that it is lacking and inadequate, and thus may create layers of armor or pretense or persona in order to protect this self within. And on, these threads of energy and loops within the self cycle to one degree or another. This is not a circumstance to be bemoaned, however, for it is, as with all distortion possible within the veiled experience, offers the third density entity the opportunity to know itself in a way which would have been impossible without the blessing and gift of this catalyst, the friction and suffering that self-doubt may generate within the self. The self may resolve over time in one great moment to seek instead to trust in the self, to honor the self, move beyond the limiting conceptions of the self into a broader and grander understanding, whereby whatever the apparent distortions on the surface of the self and the self's biography, whether limited physically, cognitively, or in any other manner, the self is a child of the One. The self is perfectly precise as it is, not in a year from now, not in 10 lifetimes from now, after it has cleared out its energy centers and worked out the kinks in the pranic lines, but as perfect as the self is right now. And this self-doubt can become an ally if used as catalyst, motivating the self to find its true worth, helping the self to know empathy for others seemingly caught in the dream, and energizing these shallow or deep layers of doubting the self. Much strength in the way of will and faith is come by this practice. At this time, we thank the circle and you, our sister, for this last query, and we transfer our contact to the one known as Jim. We are those of Quo. I'm Quo, and I'm with this instrument at this time. We would ask if there is a final query at this time. Gary. Yes, there is, Quo. L asks, it seems that there is significant weight to a magical action that someone incarnate as a human performs in time-space while operating under the veil. However, there are many higher density beings from elsewhere that are able to penetrate our third density time-space to also perform magical actions that may impact us. Even though these higher density beings have a much more refined finesse and toolkit in the magical art, it seems that the pure intention that we as humans place on a magical action may make it equally powerful, especially if it relates to our third density life. Is this correct? And if it is, then is this because we are supported by the Creator and many unseen friends in our magical work while working under the veil? I am Quo, and I'm aware of your query, my brother. The magical working that you have referred to as that which you can accomplish at this time is that which is facilitated and enhanced by your intention to use the magical working as a means of being of service to others in whatever manner that you choose. The magical working is that which calls up from your deeper mind your connection with the one Creator who moves within your being when called upon in a certain way. We are aware also, as you have said, that there are beings from elsewhere that can also accomplish magical workings that may perhaps be in excess of what you are capable of doing at this time. This is a work which you can have a beneficial or non-beneficial effect upon the magical working. In either case, we would suggest that as you do your working, that you continue to accelerate your ability to create magic, that which is called the creation of changes in consciousness at will. These changes in your consciousness, then, are that which move to be of service to others in a way that is requested by others when you are aware of the request. These magical workings are also possible to be utilized by yourself when you want to work within a certain place or room in your dwelling where you wish to, shall we say, accomplish a kind of service to others upon a regular basis, such as being accomplished at this time in this room. This type of working, then, is that which you ascribe to the various energies that are associated with your planet. and with the archangels that are the, shall we say, guides of your planetary population. Thus you may invoke them in your manner, which allows you to provide a kind of purification of yourself and your place of working, so that you may offer your service to others as it is requested. In whatever type of magical working that you proceed, we would suggest that you look to the deepest center of your own being, whether it be your higher self, your guides, or the Creator itself that exists within you, so that you call upon assistance to help with the empowering of your working to create a change in consciousness that will allow the progression of one or more entities upon their own spiritual path as a result of your working. At this time, we will thank each channel for their persistence in conscientious challenging of entities, so that we may know that we are appreciated for being able to answer such challenges. We would also like to thank each present in this channeling session for the questions, for their presence, for their desire to seek the Creator and to move further upon their spiritual path, and to aid others in the doing of the same. This is the great journey, my friends, to work together, to find the common goal, the common ground, the common joy, and is a part of each entity as it reflects the one infinite Creator in every step upon the trip. We correct this instrument in every step upon the spiritual journey. We would take our leave of this instrument and this group at this time, and thank each again for your presence, your love, and your light. We are known to you as those of Quo Adonai Vasu Boragas. So we get a lot of really powerful information from this channeling. First of all, they address a common question about seeing repeating numbers like 111 or 444. And as we've been told before, this is a form of communication from your inner guidance, presenting a puzzle to contemplate and expand your spiritual understanding. The pain or difficulty it brings up is a catalyst for growth. They also talk about balancing and opening chakras, especially the pineal gland or third eye, is done through meditation, setting intentions, accepting and forgiving the self, which allows energy to flow freely upward. They talk a little bit about connecting with spirit guides and the higher self as being done by meditating with the intention to make contact and trusting intuitive feelings and thoughts that arise. I get a lot of questions about this, and we'll dedicate some more episodes on this, but I'd like to get your feedback. Please put in the comments about your experience of meditating and with the intention of communicating with your higher self and how that has worked out for you in particular. They also have a question about a person who has a blissful but overwhelming experience in meditation that felt out of their control, and Quo said this was touching into the oneness of the universe beyond the illusion of separation. And we've been told this often, that when you actually merge with the oneness of all, it's this profound, electric, blissful feeling. And sometimes it can be overwhelming, and that is very similar to what you're experiencing with kundalini. And if anybody's experienced that, I'd love for you to share your experiences as well. I love the question about the moon influences, as well as the discussion of Yahweh from the Old Testament. I have a whole episode where we discuss the Law of One interpretation of Yahweh, the discussion of self-doubt as powerful and something that you should look at as a form of catalyst that is part of the spiritual journey. And they talk about humans doing magical workings by calling on the Creator within themselves and higher beings, setting intention to be of service. And magic can be done very powerfully in third density if you do it with the intention of service to others. When you do it with the intention of service to others, there are magical allies, spirits, entities, and angels that will come to your aid, and that is when you're going to see magic in its most purest and powerful form. The overall message of this is to seek the Creator within and have faith in your journey, that even when you're facing difficulties, and know that catalysts and challenges are opportunities for growth and service to others. Connect with higher guidance, merge with meditation, and know that you and I are both the Creator, seeking out our own oneness and merging together in this blissful oneness that is inevitably a part of our future path. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com, and welcome to The Reality Revolution.